And we are back. Welcome to my reactions and my results to my Premier League table prediction at the start of the season. I just want to start off by saying a big congratulations to Nottingham Forest for being the final team to get promoted into the Premier League, joining Fulham and Bournemouth in the Premier League for next season. A really tight game yesterday, settled by, thankfully from a Manchester United perspective, a bit of brilliance from James Garner, causing an own goal which sees Nottingham Forest promoted for next season. Now, for those of you who don't know how these sort of prediction series works, for the table you basically get 1 point for every position that you are out, and the whole purpose is to get as low a score as possible. Now, before we go into this, I'm pretty confident this didn't go very well for me, but we'll see. We'll start off with the relegation zone and sort of work our way up the table. I'm going to do it from how I did the predictions. I know some people like to do it from the real final result. I'm going to do it from my prediction, and we'll go from there. So, we'll start with the relegation zone, where my bottom three were Watford, Brentford, and Southampton. Now, as you can see, that's sort of how the points tally works. Watford, I'm not really going to need to talk about. I wasn't too surprised that Watford got relegated, and unfortunately for me, in terms of a points perspective, they were only 1 point off finishing bottom, so only 1 point for me there. Brentford, I have to say, I was really surprised with how well they performed. They seem to have a good core setup. I don't really think player-wise they have a very good team, so I still feel pretty justified in predicting them to go down. I think the signing of Christian Eriksen made a massive difference in their overall season finish. I think they had a good start, but were starting to struggle until Eriksen came in, meaning that they ended up finishing 13th. We'll see how they get on next season. I can't imagine myself predicting them much higher than either relegation zone again or no higher than 15th. But overall, a great first season in the Premier League for Brentford, and a big congratulations to them for that. Southampton, I also did to go down. They finished 15th, and if we're being honest, I think that's quite lucky in that they did have a very good start to the season. If the season started in January, Southampton would be the only club above Norwich in the table, ending up on 40 points at the end of the season after being on, I think it was 35 in January. They had a really, really poor back end. So I feel justified in predicting them to go down. It was just that really good start to the season that kept them up at the end of the day. So again, I think big work for Alf Hasenhüttl to do over the summer. Will he be there next season? Remains to be seen. But not the best start in terms of predictions. We're already on 10 points after just the bottom three. Moving slightly further up the table, we have Burnley and then Norwich. So the other two teams that I thought would be in danger were the two teams that eventually went down. Again, no real complaints from me in terms of how I placed them to finish. I expected a little bit better from Norwich, and I only put Burnley staying up because of Sean Dyche. And Sean Dyche got sacked and Burnley got relegated. So that sucks for them, but kind of serves them right a little bit as well. I feel like the whole football community was sort of against Sean Dyche getting sacked. If they were going to do it, they probably should have done it after the end of the season, whether they got relegated or not. But they did sack Sean Dyche, and now Burnley will be playing Championship football next season. And yeah, not really anything else I can say about Norwich. Again, sacking their manager after a poor start and eventually ending it with them going down as well. Moving into what I call distinctly mid-table. Not too bad on the next couple of predictions. So, Crystal Palace, I thought would be in trouble. I thought Patrick Vieira was unproven. I thought their squad wasn't exactly the best, but my word, what a great job he's done. I said almost week in, week out on my Premier League weekly predictions that how impressed I've been with Crystal Palace under Patrick Vieira, the style of play he's brought into the club, the style of player he's actually got playing. The loan signing of Conor Gallagher, of course, has made a massive difference to them. And a finish of 12th, I think they're going to be very happy with potential to build on for next season. but we will see, because as we'll get to later, the Premier League is already massively strengthening in this sort of area. As for Wolves, I think you have to give a lot of credit to Bruno Lage, same as I've given credit to Patrick Vieira. I thought after losing Nuno, they would definitely struggle. Raul Jimenez obviously not back from his injury at that point in time. Pedro Neto out for a significant period of time, selling their goalkeeper. I thought they would struggle this season, and if we're being honest, 10th kind of feels like they've been hard done by. They were challenging for Europe from large parts of the season. I said about the goalkeeper, Jose Sarr has been absolutely fantastic. I think defensively they have maintained their abilities, and going forward they did well without Raul Jimenez, and then better when he came back again. So again, a fantastic job done by Bruno Lage. And Wolverhampton Wanderers finishing 10th, and arguably should have ended up finishing a little higher. On to my 13th and 12th predictions, we have Brighton and Newcastle. And I've said enough times about Graham Potter, how I want him to be the next England manager. I believe I said at the time the only reason I put Brighton 13th was because I couldn't see them finishing above any of the teams that I predicted higher up. I wanted to put Brighton higher up, and I just couldn't at the time. But my word, has Graham Potter and his team proved me wrong. Great signing in Mark Cucurella has made a big difference to how they've approached games from an offensive outlook. He can play a left wing back, left centre back, now attracting interest from the like of Man City and Chelsea. So that move's worked out perfectly for the player and the club. They've sort of addressed their attacking issues. Danny Welbeck's been getting himself a few goals. Mopé's been getting himself a few goals. Trossard, as always, has performed brilliantly. And the midfield partnership of Bissouma and Mbeumo, sometimes Mwepu as well. I didn't mean Mbeumo. He's the Brentford player. I meant Mwepu. And then Moises Caicedo really built a foundation for them to expand from, and what a great season it's been for them. 9th, fully deserved, and we'll see how they do next season. I think Graham Potter is due a big job. Not many available right now in the Premier League, but we'll see come the start of next season who has a good start or not. And like I said, I would love him to be the England manager. As for Newcastle, they've sort of ended up where I expected them to, but not the way I expected them to get there. I put them here because I thought Steve Bruce had made some good signings, and I thought in charge of his boyhood club he'd be able to achieve something. Obviously that wasn't the case in the relegation zone when he was sacked and the new owners came in. The appointment of Eddie Howe was seemingly absolutely spot on, because if you started the table in January, where I said Southampton would be next to bottom, Newcastle would actually be third. So watch out for them next season. I think they have the right manager in charge. They've got infinite budget to spend on whoever they want this summer. Will they be able to get in the right players will remain to be seen, but I think it's going to be a very, very interesting summer at Newcastle United, and we could see them minimum pushing Europe for next season. I think that'll be the expectation of the new owners, and that's where Eddie Howe's position then may come under some scrutiny, but I think they're in the right place. They've got the right foundation to push on from an 11th place finish, and fair play to them for that. What a great turnaround it has been for them. 11th, I predicted West Ham, so I'm just going to do them on their own. I said at the start of the season that with them playing European football, I didn't think their squad would hold up, and thankfully for them, they haven't really had any major injuries to deal with. Antonio's been available pretty much all season. Bowen's been available pretty much all season. Their only real defensive issues have come in Ogbonna and Zuma, but they've had Craig Dawson, they've had Diop. They've always had cover in that position, bar a couple of games towards the end of the season. And unfortunately for them, if it wasn't for those couple of games towards the end of the season, you'd be seeing them in Europa League football next year as well. And we'll get to the team that they finished behind very, very shortly. But another fantastic season for West Ham. You've got to give credit to David Moyes again, as proving himself as one of the best managers in Premier League history, in my opinion. And good luck to him next year. They are still going to need cover for Mikel Antonio, I think, to see them finish any further up the table than they already have the last couple of years. But we shall see. Another 4-point hit for me in terms of the difference there. Now, the next two I'm going to group together. I did get these two in the right order, next to each other, but at a completely wrong point in the table. And that is Leeds and Everton. I mean, I'll start with Leeds, because obviously they're the team that I predicted to finish lower. And I was stunned that they got rid of Marcelo Bielsa. Because, I'll be honest with you, I look at that Leeds United squad, and I see a championship team and Rafinha. And Marcelo Bielsa was able to turn a group of championship level players into a team of competitive Premier League players. And they sacked him after a run of poor results. They weren't in any real danger when he got sacked. They've put the new man in, and it really hasn't worked out, if we're being honest. Lucky to stay up on the final day, going up against a Brentford team that ended up with 9 men on the pitch. So, if you ask me, Leeds probably deserved to get relegated for their performances this season. It looks like they've already spent 30-odd million on a completely unproven midfield/striker from Salzburg. Yes, they do need reinforcements, but I'm not sure if that's going to be the right guy to turn their fortunes around. Do not be surprised when we get to my prediction video at the start of next season that you'll see Leeds United in the relegation zone. Because I expected a lot more from them this season, and after the sacking of Marcelo Bielsa, it was just all downhill from there. As for Everton, Agent Rafa did his job for the Liverpool fans, it seemed. Great start to the season. The essentially free signings of Andros Townsend and Damari Gray coming in, making a big impact. And then it just all fell apart. Yes, they had some injuries to Calvert-Lewin and key midfielders like Doucouré, but they still had a lot of good players available to them, and it just really didn't happen for them. Even after Frank Lampard took over, it didn't look like times were changing too much, but thankfully for them, they were able to get the home form in check and just about, in the end, managed to keep themselves up. But worryingly for them, a 5-1 defeat to Arsenal on the final day of the season could signal another poor year coming up for them unless Lampard is able to recruit really, really well in the summer. But sadly for me, it's a 14-point hit for those two teams. On to 8th place, I predicted Arsenal. They, of course, finished 5th. I may have done Arsenal a disservice in that regard. I didn't really take into account the fact that they weren't going to be playing European football. So they were given a lot of time to rest between games, sort out tactics week to week. We'll see how that plays into next season when they obviously will be playing Europa League football every week. So we'll see. I do kind of feel justified. They were and still are the youngest average squad age in the league, and I think Mikel Arteta's done a really good job with that group of players. I think they are going to be a threat to the other teams around them next season, but like I said, if the European football starts catching up to them, they're probably going to end up as the outsiders for the relative places around them next season. But great job, Mikel Arteta, and well done to the young Gunners for achieving a great 5th place finish. Tottenham is who I predicted to finish 7th, and yes, they finished in the Champions League spot, but I still feel completely justified for predicting them to finish 7th. You've got to bear in mind that at this point in time, Nuno Espirito Santo had just been appointed from Wolves. He didn't strike me as the right manager to take Tottenham forward, and Harry Kane was going to Man City at that point in time. I can't remember whether or not I said that I was predicting this assuming Kane stayed or assuming Kane went, but I feel justified. In my head, Nuno in charge, Kane likely to leave, Tottenham finishing 7th made sense to me. And again, what a great job Antonio Conte's done. I still wish he'd have gone to Man United when he went to Tottenham, but we'll get to them in a moment. Yeah, big move by Tottenham to get Antonio Conte, and the additions of Bentancur and Kulusevski have really pushed them on, and a fantastic place for them to finish in the Champions League. Looks like they're now going to be able to attract a much better quality of player this summer. Looks like Ivan Perisic has already agreed to come. Big names assured to me on that are going to be coming in this week as well, making Tottenham a real threat, arguably to challenge for the league next season. Will they be able to fully compete with the top two? Remains to be seen, but I think they're going to be much, much closer to them if they do get the signings right. Now for the worst one. I predicted Aston Villa to finish 6th, and you may have noticed that there has been a nice big hole in 14th for a little while. I don't really know what to say about Aston Villa, other than that they've just massively underperformed. They sold Jack Grealish for 100 million and bought in some absolute quality players, and I was really excited to see how they develop under Dean Smith. I thought he'd done a fantastic job to get them to where they were. I think they were ready to push on to the next stage and had made the signings to do that, and it just didn't work out. Reasonably mixed start, a surprise sacking in my opinion. It took Gerrard a long while to get himself sorted and under the table. Yes, Coutinho made an impact, but you're talking about a season where Gerrard's come in and Coutinho's come in and they've still finished 14th. So a real surprise for me in that regard. It looks like they've already done some fantastic business for next season as well. Diego Carlos, Boubacar Kamara, and they're now looking like they're going to sign Bassi from Rangers as well. Still looking for more creative players. Coutinho's now signed on a permanent basis. I would like to think I could put Villa in a similar prediction spot next season, but given how badly it ended up going, that's definitely going to play into how I look at that one. So unfortunately a massive 8-point hit for me there. 5th place, I had Leicester, and I spoke about Leicester a lot in my overall predictions week to week. They'll be disappointed with the season they've had, but they have had some significant injuries. Fofana and James Justin came into the season with massive injuries that set them out until January. Jamie Vardy's missed more than half the season. Wilfred Ndidi's missed half the season. And they've still ended up finishing 8th and getting to a Europa Conference semi-final. So I think they've had all in all, they've recovered from a poor season to end in a relatively good spot. It also means they have no European football next season, which I think will end up being a good thing, kind of like what happened with Arsenal this year, in that they can recruit some new players in and just attack the Premier League. They are obviously a good cup team. They've had good runs in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup like they usually do. But now without that extra pressure of European football as well, I think they'll be able to get themselves in a much better position to compete for European places next season. 4th place, I had Liverpool, and again, you've got to bear in mind that I did this at the start of the season. Before Liverpool had signed Ibrahima Konate, while they still were unsure if Van Dijk was going to be fit again. Rumours around one of the forwards potentially leaving, now looking like that is happening this season with Sadio Mane set to be on his way out. And off the back of a season where they had finished 4th and looked very inconsistent. So I have to give credit to Jurgen Klopp and the medical team at Liverpool for keeping all of their key players fit essentially all season. I don't really remember a time where Liverpool had a major player out this season, which was obviously something that happened a lot last season. And on top of that, they have massively strengthened their squad with Konate and then Luis Diaz in January, who I think is going to be an absolute superstar next season. I think he's probably going to be the one that will get the most headlines next season, Luis Diaz. And commiserations for them on losing the Champions League final. I say that, I thought it was hilarious. And Liverpool have now played 3 major finals this year without scoring, which for the best attack in the world should be a slight concern for Jurgen Klopp. But all in all, a fantastic season for them. Finishing 1 point behind the champions, winning the League Cup, winning the FA Cup and getting to a Champions League final. The only thing you can ask for more than that is to get the 1 more point, or 2 more points to get them over the line in the league and to win the Champions League final. So fair play to them. They've completely shown me up there. But I still feel justified in putting them 4th. As I still feel justified in putting Manchester United 3rd. And what I will say about Manchester United, which no one has really mentioned, is that we've had a lot of injuries this season. And somehow that's been massively overlooked by, Maguire's played bad and why is Bruno Fernandes not contributed as much, and Solskjaer's the problem and Rangnick's the problem and the attitude's the problem and this, that and the other. Cavani only played 17 games this season. Pogba missed more than 6 months. Luke Shaw missed 5 months. Mason Greenwood, for his own reasons, missed every single game since January. I genuinely think if just Cavani and Greenwood were available, we'd end up in the top 4 this season. But that's just my own personal opinion. Maybe that's just my bias. But Ronaldo's been isolated up there. Rashford's not done it this season. Martial we let go before the Greenwood incident. So we needed support for Ronaldo. And the 2 best players we had to do that, in Cavani and Greenwood, have been unavailable essentially for more than half the season. And I genuinely believe if those 2 were available, we'd have still got top 4, despite all of the defensive issues and this, that and the other, and the attitude. I think it just all played into it, and eventually we ended up in 6th. But I still feel justified putting us 3rd. We had a good season the year before. We just brought in Varane and Sancho. We hadn't even signed Ronaldo when I made this prediction. So I still feel justified putting them 3rd. Overall, it's 6th place. It's Europa League football for next season. But overall, I'm not too fussed. 3 points for me on that prediction there. Next, we have Manchester City, who obviously did eventually win the league, and fair play to them for that. I still feel justified putting them 2nd, and I'll explain that right now, because you will now know the team I put first was Chelsea. And I will start by saying that Chelsea were top of the league this season for 3 months. Like, if you put all the time together, not like 3 months straight, but all the time that Chelsea were at the top of the league over the course of this season, Chelsea were at the top of the league for 3 months. Granted, that was all within the first 4 months of the season. And their injuries to Reece James and Ben Chilwell really derailed their season, and it took them far, far too long to get that sorted, to mean that they ended up finishing 3rd and they completely fell away from Man City and Liverpool. I still feel justified putting Chelsea top of the league. I thought they made a fantastic start to the season. I thought the signing of Lukaku would make some difference, but not a massive difference, which obviously proved to be the case. But I really thought they would push on. They did initially, and then they sort of fell away. And that's where Man City came in and eventually took the glory. Another fantastic season for them. Not as good as Pep Guardiola would have hoped. They did not progress as far in their respective other competitions, obviously throwing away the Champions League semi-final in the process. But all in all, Man City came away with the win. So not too many points difference at the top. For me, I was massively hurt by Aston Villa, Leeds and Everton, and Brentford to an extent down the bottom, which all in all means I get a season score of 70. Not the best, not the worst. Like I said, I still feel pretty justified for some of the ones I made. You have to bear in mind when you do these predictions that you are doing it at the start of the season before like final transfers are done. Like I said, ones like Tottenham, I assumed Kane was going to end up going to City, etc, etc. So I'm not too fussed. I'd have liked a lower score than 70. I feel like 70 is not a great score, but it's all part of the fun of it. Thank you very much for watching. I look forward to having another crack at this next season. Hopefully we can do better than 70. And I will see you tomorrow for the first of the brand new series of Nations League predictions. Thank you very much for watching.